US 501. Yeah. Alright, hello everyone, I am Quartermonch437, and in this video I'm going to be talking about US 501 because I wanted to do a road strictly in the southeast that wasn't for a special occasion like the Durpog's birthday, which I had done a video for back in May, talking about North Carolina Route 42. But now this is the first time I have done a route that isn't in the northeast at all or anything else. It's just in the southeast. It's not for a special occasion, although I think I might have picked a bad choice for a route because as of the recording of this video, Jay from Extreme Geography has already uploaded a video about US 501, and so has the Durpog. And in January of 2025, the Xavier 456 will also be doing his own version of this route as part of his NC Provincial Lovin' series. But enough rambling. Let's just look at the map of the route of US 501. We can see it starts in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, on the very eastern coast of it. It goes into North Carolina and then passes through some rural areas and a few cities in the north before going into Virginia, passing through the city of Lynchburg, and then ending at US 60 in Buena Vista in the mountains. It's at this point in the video that I should remind you, if you like this content, please be sure to leave a like, leave a comment down below if you have any feedback for me, and if you really enjoyed it, please subscribe and turn on those notifications. So, without further ado, let us start talking about Northbound US 501. So, we begin here in downtown Myrtle Beach on Northbound US Business 17, and we can see a 2 North 501 shield turn left. And if we make that left turn, we got our first US 501 northbound reassurance shield. And our first major interchange that we have on US 501 is with US 17 and is getting signed for Georgetown and North Myrtle Beach. And I absolutely disagree with those control cities. I think it should be Wilmington for northbound and Charleston for southbound. But now we are meeting South Carolina Route 31, and it gets the same control cities, and this is the route I think those control cities should be on and not US 17. And we can see that we are also getting a pull through for 501 North Conway, and I believe that is the right choice. Just a little bit before we get to Conway, Business 501 is splitting off to our right, and we get a sign telling us that if we want to get to US 378, we should stay in the left lanes here. I'm not sure why there isn't a 2 378 mentioned here, but I don't know. South Carolina can be weird sometimes. And now we are about to meet up with US 378 and also US 701. And we can see that US 378 is getting the controls of Lake City and Sumter. We don't see them for US 701, although we still have to go up a little bit further before we actually meet up with 701. And here is where that happens, and we can see that 701 is getting signed for Loris and Georgetown. And our next control city will be Marion. And I'm not really so sure how to feel about that. We have a short concurrency with US 701 as we go through Conway. And as it splits off, we can see it, along with Business 501, is getting signed for Loris and Nichols. And we continue to get signed for Marion. Now we are meeting South Carolina Route 22, and it is getting signed east for Myrtle Beach and North Myrtle Beach, and I'm not gonna lie, I feel like this road is kind of pointless if you've just come from Myrtle Beach, because this will just take you back over there. Although if you're coming from Conway, I guess it kind of makes sense. Here is our first mileage sign that I could find on US 501 northbound. And we can see that we're getting signed for Hainer. I'm not sure how you pronounce that exactly. That is our top line at 5 miles away, and we're getting Marion on the bottom line at 25 miles away. So I guess that could be alright. I'm not entirely sure. But anyways, here we meet another business route of US 501, and it is getting signed to westbound US 76 with the control cities of Marion and Florence, because 501 business is going into Marion and it will meet up with US 76, which will take you to Florence. And now we are getting signed for Dillon and Bennettsville. Bennettsville is only on there because of South Carolina Route 38. On our next mileage sign, we can see that we are getting Lotta at 16 miles away on the top line, and Dillon is our bottom line at 23 miles away. And at this point, I would kind of like to see Dillon on the top line, and the bottom line should be Laurinburg, North Carolina, because Dillon is less than half of the size of Laurinburg. Laurinburg has 15,000 people, and Dillon only has about 6,000 or so. And obviously, Lotta and Dillon are so close to each other. So yeah, I think you could put Dillon on the top line and then replace the bottom line with Laurinburg, North Carolina. But anyways, now we are meeting US 76 directly, and is getting signed for Mullins and Marion. And now here we meet South Carolina Route 38 to Interstate 95, and it is getting signed for Bennettsville, while we get signed for Lotta and Dillon. Again, I really feel like if you're going to have two, you should have Dillon and Laurinburg, North Carolina. Also, yikes, these signs have seen much better days. These are looking pretty faded here. Anyway, now we are meeting US 301, and we're going to have a concurrency with it for a little bit, as it gets no control cities at all, which I really do not like. I think you could sign this as Florence, but I'm not entirely sure about that, because you would have had other routes to go to Florence. But I would at least like to see a control city on there for 301. But anyway, now here in Lotta, we meet South Carolina Route 917, and it is also getting signed for Bennettsville. And we can see that 301 southbound is getting signed for Florence, so that's good. And we continue to be signed for Dillon, as opposed to Laurinburg, North Carolina. In Dillon, we meet South Carolina routes 9 and 57, and they get signed for Bennettsville and Charlotte! Charlotte? Holy mackerel! That is quite a jump from here! And I absolutely love to see that on there, because, you know, it's Charlotte. Charlotte is North Carolina's biggest city, and they're signing South Carolina 9 for Charlotte. Holy mackerel, that is awesome. Wow. And then straight ahead, we are getting signed for Fayetteville. Holy mackerel, that is really, really good. This is the best sign we've seen on this route so far. Holy mackerel, why couldn't they have been doing this kind of stuff before? Like, jeez. I'm at a loss for words here. This is incredible. If this would have been in North Carolina, I would have absolutely handed out a North Carolina W trophy for this sign right here. This is amazing. Holy mackerel. Just a little bit further up the road, we come to the south of the border tourist attraction, and we are also just about to meet Interstate 95. So here is a look at south of the border, as we also get a junction Interstate 95 shield right here. And at our interchange with Interstate 95, it is getting signed north for Fayetteville. So that is absolutely the right choice, and it is getting signed southbound for Florence. And I'm not really so sure how I feel about 95 getting signed for Florence. Yeah, I think it's a little better to sign Florence going southbound, but I'd still honestly rather see like Columbia or Charleston, because those are much bigger cities in South Carolina than Florence. And at this interchange, we can also see a North Carolina state line sign. So that is pretty interesting. And if we look on Interstate 95, we can see that we're getting signed for Roland and Laurinburg. So it looks like South Carolina was favoring Interstate 95 when they signed our concurrency for Fayetteville, although Laurinburg is still a good choice to sign for us. Anyway, here is a Welcome to North Carolina sign. And in Roland, we are now splitting off from US 301 to join up with North Carolina Route 130. And we are getting signed for Laurinburg, which is the correct choice. And on our first mileage sign in North Carolina, we can see Laurinburg on the bottom line at 19 miles away, so that is pretty cool. And now we are meeting and going to become concurrent with US 74 going westbound, although eastbound it does not get any control cities, and that is a little disappointing. Although we can see Rockingham on the sign up ahead, so that is pretty cool. We are about to join up with US 15 and 401, which will begin a 107 mile stretch of US 15 and 501 being concurrent, which locals refer to as the 15501. And we can see that it is getting signed for Laurinburg and Fayetteville, which is on there because of US 401. And that is really, really cool to see. And we can also see that southbound 501 is getting signed for Roland. And when we actually split off from US 74 to join up with 15 and 401, we are getting signed for Fayetteville and Bennettsville. And 74 West is getting signed for Charlotte! Charlotte! Woo! That is awesome! That is a rare North Carolina W. And also 401 getting signed for Fayetteville is absolutely the right choice there. So, good work, NC Dot. This sign is awesome. I love to see it. I wish all of your signs could be as good as this one. Oh, fantastic. Anyways, here at this railroad crossing, we are splitting off from US 401, and we are now getting signed for Aberdeen and Sanford. So Sanford is really cool to see. And on our next mileage sign, we can see that Aberdeen is on the top line at 27 miles away, and Sanford is 58 miles away. So this is a really good mileage sign. And now we are joining up with US 1 along with North Carolina Route 211, and we can see that now we're getting signed for Southern Pines and Pinehurst. I think these choices are pretty good as well. And now here are some reassurance shields for our quad concurrency of 115-501 and North Carolina 211. And now US 1 is splitting off from us for a little bit, as it is getting signed for Sanford, and we are still left with North Carolina 211 on the 15501. We're getting signed for Pinehurst and Carthage. I don't really like seeing that Carthage on there because Carthage is like 2,000 people. It is really small, so I don't think you should have that on the sign. But then again, you're better off taking one to Sanford because it's a little faster. So I don't really know what else you would put on there. But on the next mileage sign, Sanford is on the bottom line at 28 miles away. So yeah, I like seeing that. Now we are meeting some random road, which is just like some 4-digit numbered route in North Carolina, and it is getting assigned to westbound North Carolina 24 and 27, and we get signed straight ahead for 2 east North Carolina 24 and 27. And this random road gets a control city of Siler City, so I have been told by the Derpog that apparently this is rare to see that happen, so that's kind of cool, I guess. Very interesting. Now we are meeting up with US 1 for a second time, going to be concurrent with it, and we are assigned once again for Sanford, so again, absolutely the right choice. And here are some nice reassurance shields of our 115 and 501 concurrency, all in numerical order. Pretty cool. And now we come to Sanford as we get this welcome to Sanford sign. Pretty interesting welcome sign they've got here. Now we are meeting North Carolina Route 42 and also Business US 1. And they are getting signed for Aspro and Fuquay Varina. So, speaking of Dirtpug, shout outs to him. Fuquay Varina is where he lives. And I did a video about North Carolina 42, which you can see up in the cards. We are meeting US 421, and Southbound is getting signed for Lillington, along with North Carolina Route 87. And Northbound is getting signed for Siler City and Greensboro! Greensboro? Are you kidding me? Holy mackerel! That's amazing! That is absolutely amazing! That is another rare North Carolina W! Can you believe it? That is 2 in 1 video! Holy mackerel! North Carolina is absolutely knocking it out of the park here on 501. This is insane. But again, I love to see it. Why can't they be like us on the interstates? Like, holy mackerel. This is just fantastic. I'm at a loss for words. It's so good. So good. Greensboro. Wow. And if we look on US 421, we can see that our concurrency is now getting signed for Raleigh and Pittsburgh, so that is pretty cool, although we are getting kind of close to Raleigh at this point, so it's not exactly another W, but it is a good sign, that is for sure. And here we are going to be signed for Pittsburgh and Chapel Hill, because if you wanted to get to Raleigh, you'd be taking US 1 because we are splitting off of it again. And we're going to be concurrent with Business 1 and North Carolina 87. Also, this is another sign that has seen better days. Oof. Now we are coming into Pittsburgh, and we get this roundabout with a courthouse in the center. As you can see that if we want to continue on 15501, we will want to turn left, as at this exit in the roundabout we are meeting Business US 64. And here is a picture that the Derpog took of this courthouse in this roundabout. And here is another one of his pictures in downtown Pittsburgh. We can see that 15501 are running on Hillsborough Street Avenue. I'm not 100% sure. And the road that we were meeting here is Salisbury Street. I'm not 100% sure. Now we are meeting regular US 64 and is getting signed eastbound for Raleigh, so that is pretty cool. And Westbound is getting signed for Siler City. No, that should be Ashboro, because Ashboro is 4 times bigger than Siler City, and it is not that much farther away. Ugh. And at the turn for Westbound US 64, we can see that we are now getting signed for Chapel Hill. And I'm not gonna lie, I would kind of almost like to see Durham on this, because yeah, Chapel Hill is a pretty big city in its own right, but I mean, Durham is like almost 300,000 people, so I don't know, maybe I'd like to see both of them on there. But anyways, now we are meeting and going to become concurrent with North Carolina 54, and we don't get any control cities here, although we can see that West North Carolina 54 is getting signed to North Carolina 8. North Carolina. That's a mouthful. It's getting signed to North Carolina 86. Anyway, we split off from North Carolina 54. It is getting signed for Raleigh, so another Raleigh sign, pretty cool. And we are getting signed for Durham, which is absolutely correct. Now we are meeting Interstate 40, and it is getting signed for Greensboro, just like 421 was earlier, and eastbound is getting signed for Raleigh and RDU Airport. So pretty good stuff right here, although not really a rare W here, because that is what should be there. Here is a picture that the Dirtpog took on Interstate 40, and we can see that at the exit for 15 and 501, we are getting signed for Chapel Hill and Durham, so those are the right choices. And thank you to the Dirtpog for providing this picture, as well as a couple of other ones that we have seen in this video. And now we are meeting North Carolina 147, the Durham Freeway, as we also get some information about Business US 72, South Interstate 85, and West US 70, although the only other thing listed on the sign is Hillsborough Road. I would really like to see a control city there. And we are getting pulled through North 15501 to North Interstate 85 and East US 70. So this sign right here is really confusing. Like, why are there no control cities? And there's just so many shields, it really makes my head hurt. And now here we are merging into Interstate 85. And now we are saying goodbye to US 15 and Interstate 85. The former, after we had been concurrent with it for 107 miles, we are ending at 15501. But now we are splitting off, getting signed for Gregson Street, Duke Street, and Northgate. So we are getting 2 Kentucky treatments and one basically just a neighborhood on this sign. How about Oxford? That's the next important city that we're gonna go through. Like, are you freaking kidding me? This is ridiculous. Why do you need 3 lines on this sign? Now, this exit here is gonna be splitting up into like multiple different parts, but you know what's the insulting part? 501 isn't even what's getting signed for Northgate. It's like at the exit. 501 just gets the Kentucky treatment. So again, why not just sign Oxford? Because that is... Okay, so north of Durham, we are meeting and going to become concurrent with North Carolina 57. And we get a mileage sign with Roxborough on the top line at 12 miles away. And South Boston is on the bottom line at 36 miles away. And at this point, I would kind of like South Boston to be on the top line, and Lynchburg, Virginia should be on the bottom line, because Lynchburg is like 80,000 people, and I'd say it's a fine city to sign from far away. So yeah, I'm not really too happy about seeing Roxborough, although I mean, I guess South Boston isn't a terrible control city either. It's like 8,000 people. What I have a lot of beef with is this sign right here, we're meeting up with US 158 and going to have a concurrency with it for a little bit, and is getting signed east for Oxford. Okay, fine. That is a pretty sizable town. At least I think it definitely makes sense as a control city for 158. But straight ahead, we're getting signed for Yanceyville. Yanceyville is like 1,000 people or something like that. So why are we favoring US 158 westbound here and getting an absolutely abysmal control city? Holy mackerel. North Carolina, you have taken a 180 from the sign that you were doing like south of Durham, Pittsburgh, when you were signing 74 for Charlotte and 421 for Greensboro. We are getting the total opposite of that now. Holy mackerel. What the heck is this? Also, welcome to Roxborough. That is pretty cool. And here's what's really infuriating. So we split off of US 158 to join up with North Carolina 49, and we get absolutely no control cities whatsoever. Absolutely, Lynchburg should be mentioned here. Or at least South Boston, something. Oh my goodness gracious. What are you doing, NC Dot? Oh. I can't. I don't understand it. But anyway, here is where we're splitting off of North Carolina 49. And on our next mileage sign, South Boston is on the top line at 21 miles away, but we get Halifax, Virginia at 26 miles away. Why not Lynchburg? Lynchburg is 10 times the size of South Boston and should absolutely be our primary here. Absolutely. There is no excuse this time. Oh my goodness gracious. I am so glad that we are about to get out of North Carolina because, again, their signage quality has just plummeted from the southern part of the state. What happened? Why are all the signs so terrible? So now we come to the state line of Virginia and North Carolina, and we get this really, really pathetic Virginia sign. It just says Virginia, enter Halifax County. Oh, come on, Virginia. I know I'm not really a big fan of your welcome signs, but you don't have to settle for this. Oh, okay. So we do get a real welcome to Virginia sign. It's just a little bit further up the road. I don't know. I'm still not really a fan of it. Although, at least we don't just get that stupid green sign. Anyway, here on our first mileage sign and reassurance shield combo, as I like to do in Virginia, there's also 3 lines as we get Closer Springs on the top line at 3 miles away. South Boston is on the second line at 9 miles away. And we get Lynchburg on the bottom line at 67 miles away. Finally! It should have been on like everyone since like Durham, Oxford. Either way, it's been a long time coming, and this should have been happening a lot sooner. Now we are meeting US 360 and US 58, and they're getting signed for Danville, Clarksville, and Richmond. And straight ahead, we are getting South Boston, which isn't as cool as Lynchburg, but this is still a pretty cool direction sign. And you know what? I mean, Virginia is kind of weird. Sometimes they do good, sometimes they do bad. I think generally they do a bit more good than bad, but you know what? I like this direction sign so much, I'm gonna have to give this direction sign a V.W. Not a rare one, but a V.W, because I do like this sign a lot, and I think it deserves to be recognized in some way. And now, in downtown South Boston, or at least a bit north of South Boston, we're going to be joining up with Virginia Route 360 as opposed to US Route 360, and we're getting signed for Richmond and Lynchburg. So that is also a really cool direction sign, although I'd say not quite as W-worthy because there's not as many big cities on there. And now we're splitting off of Virginia Route 360 as it gets signed for Crystal Hill and Richmond, and we are still getting signed for Lynchburg. I couldn't really find any mileage signs on 501 for a while, so here's the next one that I could, and we still get Lynchburg on the bottom line at 29 miles away, so that's pretty cool. On the outskirts of Lynchburg, we are going to be meeting US 29 and 460 in half a mile as they get the control cities of Charlottesville and Roanoke, and we are signed for Buena Vista, where this route will end. And at our interchange with 29 and 460, we can see that North 29 is getting assigned for Charlottesville. We are going to be concurrent with Southbound US 29, and eastbound 460 is now getting assigned for Appomattox, which I do not agree with at all, because that is like 2,000 people. It's only about 20 miles away from here. I don't know why you wouldn't go with Petersburg, but in any case, we can see that we're going to be concurrent with South US 29 and West 460 as we're also meeting Business 460 and 501. And here is our left turn sign for US 29, 460, and 501, although we don't get any control cities on this sign, so that's kind of lame. And on our next mileage sign, we can see Roanoke on the top line at 54 miles away, and Danville 65 miles away on the bottom line, so it seems like they're favoring US 29 south here, which is kind of weird, but then again, I don't really know what else to go with. But now we are splitting off 29 and 460. They're getting signed for Roanoke and Danville, and we get the Kentucky treatment of Candler's Mountain Road, and Buena Vista is at least on the sign. But I don't know if you really need Candler's Mountain Road, because just the name of the road. And now we're meeting US 221 here, and it gets no control cities, although I can kind of understand for northbound, because there really isn't much left of 221 here, because it'll end in downtown Lynchburg, but I feel like southbound really should get control city. On our next mileage sign, we get Blue Ridge Parkway on the top line at 1 mile away, Glasgow is our second line at 11 miles away, and Buena Vista is our bottom line at 21 miles away, and that makes sense because that is where we're ending and going to be meeting US 60. Here is where we meet the Blue Ridge Parkway, and in the distance we can see a mileage sign with Glasgow on the top line, and we only get 2 lines on this mileage sign because we are running out of 501 at this point. Buena Vista 19 miles away on the bottom line, and here is the last mileage sign, at least that I could find, where we are now getting Lexington on the bottom line because that is where US 60 West will go when we have met it. So I think that is a sensible choice. And now here is the end of northbound US 501 in Buena Vista at US 60, and we only get a West US 60 shield and a 2 Interstate 81 shield. There is no N501 shield nor any direction sign for US 60 telling us what its controls are. So that is a pretty sad excuse of an ending for northbound 501. But let us now start going the other way and talk about southbound US 501. On US 60 eastbound, we can see that it is getting assigned for Richmond and Blue Ridge Parkway, so pretty good stuff there. And we are getting assigned south for Lynchburg, which is the correct choice to start. And here is our first reassurance shield on southbound 501. Here is the first mileage sign that I could find with Lynchburg on the bottom line at 37 miles away. Pretty good. And here we are coming back into Lynchburg and we're meeting Business 501, which, you know what the heck, let's take it this time, why not? Now we are meeting US 221 and Business 460. This is where 221 ends after we have been concurrent with it for a little bit. And we can also see a sign to US 29. I'm not entirely sure. It looks like 29 is getting the control of Danville, so that's good. At the end of Business 501 in Lynchburg, we are getting an overhead sign for South Boston, as we can also see that North US 29 and East 460 are getting signed for Charlottesville and Appomattox. Once again, Appomattox, I really don't think that should be the control for 460 East, because it's going over to Petersburg, which is much bigger, and it meets Interstate 85 there. And South 29, West 460, and us, and North 501, they don't get any control cities. Although if we look on the ground, we can see that they're getting signed for Roanoke, so that is good. And our next mileage sign we see has Rustburg on the top line, Brookneal in the middle at 29 miles away, and South Boston is our bottom line at 58 miles away. And I feel like at this point you could honestly start signing Durham, because yeah, it's pretty far away from here, but 501 is the fastest route to get from Lynchburg to Durham, and also Durham is like 4 times as big as Lynchburg, almost. So yeah, I really feel like you could put that on the bottom line, although again, South Boston, maybe not a terrible choice, although not really as primary worthy going southbound. But anyways, here we are meeting US 360 and US 58 once again, and they are getting signed for South Hill and Danville, and we are getting signed for Roxborough, North Carolina now, so yeah, would kind of like to see Durham instead, although Roxborough, that's what they should have been signing on northbound out of Durham. Here is our last mileage sign in Virginia, and we only get 2 lines on this one, although Durham is the bottom one, so that is absolutely correct. Welcome to North Carolina. On our first mileage sign in North Carolina, we get Durham 32 miles away on the top line, and our bottom line is Haw River at 36 miles away. I guess whoever was making this mileage sign thought it was very funny that when they put Haw River on the bottom line, they start going ha ha ha. Well, I don't think it's very funny, and I think this is a terrible mileage sign to start off with. I feel like Durham should either just be a 1 line here, or you could go with like Chapel Hill on the bottom line, which is smaller than Durham by a factor of like 5, but you know what? It would be a much better choice than Haw River. Getting in early here, are we, North Carolina? And it only goes downhill from there. We meet up with US 158 and North Carolina 57 and become concurrent with those roads, and they get their terrible primary favoring US 158 West for Yanceyville, and we are getting signed for Oxford going southbound on 501. Yeah, no. What happened to Durham? Absolutely, Durham should be on there. Abysmal. Absolutely abysmal. Although, when we do split off from 158, now we are once again getting signed for Durham as it gets signed for Oxford. So, this is a lot better. And then on our next mileage sign, we get exactly what I would have suggested before. We get Durham and Chapel Hill. So, yeah, again, kind of weird that a much smaller city is on the bottom line, but like, what else are you really going to go with if you're not going to have Durham be a 1-liner? And now we are coming into the Raleigh-Durham metro area, and we are meeting Business 501 here, and you know what? Just for kicks, let's take this one too. We are meeting the western terminus of North Carolina 55, or northern, I don't know. But we also get some information to East US 70 and to North Interstate 85. And they mistakenly put white US signs for the 285 North Shield. So that's kind of funny. What is not so funny is what we see when we meet Interstate 85 concurrent with US 15 and 70. And they get signed north for Oxford because that is where US 15 splits off of 85 and they are favoring 15 when that should absolutely be Petersburg or Richmond because that's where 85 is going to go. Although at least south they are getting signed for Greensboro, so that is good. Here we are in downtown Durham, where we're meeting Business US 70. And then we also meet North Carolina 147, the Durham Freeway. And according to Durpog, it never usually gets control cities, but in this case is getting signed to Raleigh and Greensboro. So those are fantastic control cities for that. And now we are meeting North Carolina Route 751, although we don't see any mention of the fact that this is North Carolina 751. There is a junction shield before this image, but there really should be shields here. And it is getting signed for Duke University and Durham Academy. I feel like the South Point Mall should also be mentioned here, because the Durpog made a video about this road because it goes to the mall, and I will leave that up in the cards so you can go check out that video. Here is where we meet back up with regular 15501, and we have no access to northbound 15501. The lanes go right over us, and there is no ramp for that. And now we are meeting Interstate 40 once again, and it gets the great choices of Raleigh RDU Airport for eastbound and westbound sign for Greensboro. So that is correct right there. Well done, NCDOT. And then shortly after meeting Interstate 40, we get this pull through for South 15501, Pittsboro and Sanford. So those are also absolutely the right choices. I like to see it. We are meeting North Carolina 54 and going to become concurrent with it once more. It is getting signed east for Raleigh, and we are getting signed for Pittsboro as North Carolina 54 goes west to Carborough. And I should also mention that this is the road you would want to take if you're going to UNC Chapel Hill. And we are splitting off of North Carolina 54. Also getting some information about North Carolina 86, signed for Chapel Hill and Pittsboro. Chapel Hill is for 86, I believe. And we are meeting US 64 once again. It gets its same control cities as before. Westbound absolutely should be Asheboro once again. And on US 64, we can see that we're getting signed for Chapel Hill, Sanford, and Carthage. I feel like just Sanford would do the job fine for southbound. Now in Pittsboro, once again, we are meeting Business US 64, and we get some information to North Carolina 87. And last year, when the Durpog was in Pittsboro, he took this picture of him with the US 15501 shield. And I really like this picture, so I wanted to feature it in the video. Thank you to him for letting me use it in this video, because like I said, I really like this picture. I think it's pretty cool that he was able to do that. And in fact, here is another one of his pictures where we are joining southbound North Carolina 87, although we don't get any control cities, or at least this picture does not have any. But now we are meeting US 1 and going to be concurrent with it again as we get signed for Southern Pines and Pinehurst, as well as Business US 1 for Sanford. We meet 421 once again. It gets its amazing control city of Greensboro, as well as getting signed for Siler City, and this is where 87 will split off of us to join up with 421 South for Lillington. We meet North Carolina 42 once again, although this time it does not get signed for Fuquay Arena, which is kind of disappointing, but then again, maybe you would have had better routes to Fuquay from here. Either way, on our next mileage sign, we get Cameron 10 miles away on the top line, and Southern Pines is our bottom line at 26 miles away, and I think that is the right choice. Although that was for US 1, we are splitting off from US 1, and we are now getting signed for Pinehurst and Carthage. Again, I really don't like that Carthage on there because Carthage is such a small town. Although, on our next mileage sign, Carthage is our top line at 12 miles away, and we got Pinehurst on the bottom line at 21 miles away. So, if Pinehurst is on the bottom of the mileage sign, why is Carthage on that last sign? Take it off. You do not need that there. Anyways, here we are joining up with US 1 and North Carolina 211 once again for our brief quad highway concurrency, and 211 is getting signed for Rayford, and our US routes are getting signed for Laurinburg, so that is absolutely the right choice. And we can see that after US 1 has split off, once again, North Carolina 211 is getting signed for Rayford, and we get Laurinburg, so once again, very good choice. And then we get a one-line mileage sign with only Laurinburg on it, so I feel like you could have something else to reflect the fact that we're going to be meeting up with 401 again soon, and 15 is going to be leaving in Laurinburg. But I mean, if you're going to have just one, then yeah, I suppose Laurinburg is fine because it's a pretty sizable place. Here is where we will briefly gain concurrency with US 401 again, and we can see that straight ahead is signed for Fayetteville, because that will take you over to northbound 401, and 401 southbound is getting signed for Bennettsville, which I think is the right choice. And now we will say goodbye to US 15 once and for all. As we can see straight ahead, we will be meeting up with and going to become concurrent with US 74, once again briefly. It is getting signed for Lumberton, and we are getting signed for Myrtle Beach. So, they are signing Myrtle Beach from very, very far away, and you know what? I think it makes a lot of sense because Myrtle Beach is pretty sizable, it's famous. That's where 501 will end. So, North Carolina, you get one more W! Woohoo! 3 North Carolina W's in one video. That is truly a rare sight to behold. Holy mackerel. I have never given out this many trophies in one video, I believe. So, yeah. Also, US 74 West Rockingham. That's just fine. But, yeah. This is pretty well signed, I'd say, right here. Especially that 501 for Myrtle Beach. And when we split off of US 74, we can see that we were getting signed Roland Myrtle Beach. So, good stuff. Although, on our next mileage sign, we only get Fairmont on the bottom line because they are favoring North Carolina Route 130 because we're going to be briefly concurrent with that. So, that is not very good. I feel like you should exchange Fairmont for Myrtle Beach, or even better, maybe do like a 3-line mileage sign and put Myrtle Beach on the bottom line. So, what the heck, North Carolina? Why did you do another 180 all of a sudden? So, here is where we split off of North Carolina 130 to join up with US 301 once again. And we can see in the distance a mileage sign for North Carolina 130 Fairmont Whiteville. But our next mileage sign has Florence on the bottom line at 42 miles away, so they're favoring 95 and 301 here, which I guess that's fine because Florence is a lot closer than Myrtle Beach and it's about the same size. Although when we become independent 501 again, I would really like to see Myrtle Beach again. Now we are meeting Interstate 95 again, and here it just gets absolutely no control cities. Not even like northbound, which I would assume they would want to sign because you stay in North Carolina that way. But if we look at the northbound ramp, we can see that it is getting signed for Lumberton and not Fayetteville. Holy crap, North Carolina, you have like bookended your signage here on Southbound 501. It started off pretty terribly, and on the northern end of Northbound 501 it was awful, and now you go ahead and do this crap. Like, what the heck? Why not Fayetteville? You were signing it on 401. If you can sign 401 for it, then why not 95? You can favor both roads. They're both going to Fayetteville. You can sign it on both because Fayetteville's a huge... Oh my goodness, North Carolina. Oh, why do you do that? Here we are coming into South Carolina. We don't get a proper welcome sign for South Carolina. We just get South Carolina state line. So here is another view of south of the border. And an even better look at it. And our first mileage sign in South Carolina is not a good one. We get Hammer. I don't care. It should not be on the top line, only 1 mile away. Dillon should be there, and it should be Myrtle Beach on the bottom line. Come on, South Carolina. Are you really going to let your northern neighbor outclass you? Come on. This is ridiculous. Although, we meet with South Carolina routes 9, 57, and 34. And we can see straight ahead we're getting signed for Marion, Myrtle Beach, and Florence. So that is good. Meanwhile, 9 and 57 are getting signed for Lakeview and North Myrtle Beach. That is a good choice for 9. And now, at this direction sign, we get Bennettsville. Straight ahead, we're getting signed for Marion and Florence. So, again, where did Myrtle Beach go? Come on. Although, when we split off of US 301, it gets signed for Florence, and we get Myrtle Beach and Marion. I feel like just Myrtle Beach can do the job here because of the reasons I mentioned before. Now we're meeting South Carolina 38 once again, which is getting signed to Interstate 95 Bennettsville, as we get a pull through for Marion and Myrtle Beach. Again, you really don't need Marion on there. Myrtle Beach will do the job just fine. Although, now we are meeting US 76, and it is getting signed for Marion, which makes a lot more sense going in this direction, seeing as that is how you would get to Marion. But, if we look on the interchange with US 76, 501 South is now getting signed for Conway, and absolutely should be Myrtle Beach. Come on, South Carolina. Why are you being provincial? If you're going to put Conway on there, put both Conway and Myrtle Beach. Don't just have Conway. Holy mackerel. Wow. Both of the Carolinas are being provincial. That is ridiculous. You would think South Carolina would be signing better than its northern neighbor because usually South Carolina is a heck of a lot better. We saw that in Dillon when they signed Charlotte and Fayetteville. Like, that was them showing their true colors. They are off their game here, signing Conway. Although, on our last mileage sign, we do get Conway on the top line at 36 miles away, and Myrtle Beach is on the bottom line at 50 miles away. So that is good. Now we're meeting South Carolina 22 once again, and it gets its same control cities as we saw at the beginning of this video on Northbound. Although, now we are getting signed downtown Myrtle Beach and Surfside Beach. So I feel like this sign is really confusing. I'm not entirely sure what should be signed here, but that is a lot of beach getting signed, and I don't know. We're just going to move on to our junction with 701, where we become concurrent with it for a little bit, and we can see it is getting signed for Georgetown. We are getting signed for all beaches at 14 miles away. So, you mean to tell me that beaches in California or something are like 14 miles away? I think you could have better wording for that sign. either way, now we are meeting South Carolina 31 once again, which gets its same control cities, the correct control cities. And we are meeting US 17 once again, which gets the incorrect control cities of Georgetown and North Myrtle Beach. And South 17 gets Surfside thrown on there this time. Again, it should just be Charleston, and North should be Wilmington. But now we come into Myrtle Beach once again, and we get a similarly unceremonious end to Southbound 501. The last shield we see on 501's pavement is this to South 17, so that is really, really disappointing. Okay, let's talk about quarter march 437s the way it should be for US 501. And going northbound, I would say that Conway is a good choice to start with. And then after that, I would co-sign both Marion and Florence, because when you get to 501 Business in Marion, that is also the fastest way to Florence from there. And then after that, I would co-sign both Dillon and Laurinburg, because Dillon is sizable, kind of sizable. It's like 7,000 people. I think it should be mentioned, but you should also sign Laurinburg because it's like twice the size and would also make a good control city. And then after Dillon, I would just sign Laurinburg. And then leaving US 401 on 15501, then I would co-sign Aberdeen and Southern Pines, because I think you should sign Southern Pines on 15501 because of the concurrency with US 1. And then after 1 splits off, for the first time, I would say Carthage and Sanford should be co-signed, because you're still going to Sanford on 15501, but taking 1 is faster. And then when we meet back up with 1 for the second time, it should be just Sanford. Then I'd say Pittsburgh, Chapel Hill, and then I would co-sign Raleigh and Durham until meeting 40, Interstate 40, because 15501 don't quite go to Raleigh, but they meet roads that will take you over to Raleigh, and I think it should be mentioned because Raleigh is North Carolina's capital, and it should be mentioned. And then after Interstate 40, I would just sign Durham. And then when 501 splits off of 15, I would say it should be Roxborough. And then after that, I would co-sign South Boston and Lynchburg, because, yeah, I think South Boston kind of does make sense to be signed, but I think it should also, like, Lynchburg is 10 times the size of South Boston, so I think it definitely should also be mentioned. And then after South Boston, I would just sign only Lynchburg. Then I would do Buena Vista and Lexington co-sign, because when 501 ends at US 60, Lexington is only a few miles away, and I think that should be mentioned because Lexington is slightly bigger than Buena Vista. And then going southbound, I would say from the jump, sign Lynchburg. And then after Lynchburg, I would co-sign both South Boston and Durham, because, you know, Durham is huge and it should be mentioned. Plus, also, from Lynchburg to Durham, 501 is the fastest route, so I think you should sign Durham in Lynchburg. And South Boston is not so important. And then leaving South Boston, I would just sign Durham, then Chapel Hill, Pittsburgh, and Sanford. And in Sanford, I would co-sign both Pinehurst and Aberdeen, because if you're going to Pinehurst, you would take US 1, but I think it should be mentioned because it is bigger than Aberdeen. and then I would do Laurinburg and Myrtle Beach the whole rest of the way after splitting off of 74, because Myrtle Beach is famous, it's pretty big, and everything else is just secondary worthy. Now, at this point, I would like to tell you all my future plans for the next few Control City videos. Next up, immediately, we will be doing 322 Westbound Rebooted, and then after that is going to be my trip to Morgantown, West Virginia video. That was originally planned. I was originally planning to do it like at the end of this year or maybe sometime early next year, but I decided to move it up because I just really want to make it. So that'll be 2 videos from now, and then after that we'll be doing Pennsylvania 33 Rebooted. So that's what you all can expect from me for the next few Control City videos. And with that, this has been US 501. Thank you so much for watching, and until the next video, everyone, peace. Have a good one.